What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and it's time for my top 5 games of 2021. Alright, so, I probably would have... Normally, I'm like... Well, this is probably pretty much par for the course. I'm usually a little bit late getting this list out every year just because I do my 20 games, and that's typically games off my backlog, so I spend most of the year playing, like, older stuff. So I don't play a ton of new stuff, which is another, just a heads up. Some games that you may have thought were absolutely spectacular, I may not have played, which there's a good chance of that because, quite frankly, in 2021, I was looking over the list of games that I had played and games that I hadn't played, and I really wasn't super impressed with, like, the full lineup. Played some great games, don't get me wrong, but as far as, like, 2021 overall, for me, it just wasn't a spectacular year for new games. That being said, like I said, I played some great ones, and those are the ones I've got here on this list. So, let's just kick it off. Alright, coming in at number 5, we have Monster Hunter Rise. Man, when this came out, I was a little bit I was a little worried because I had played World, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool, but my biggest issue was that it was games that are easy to learn, hard to master are really, really cool, and I love that. I love that being a primary feature of a game, and that's exactly what Monster Hunter World was. Hey, buddy, what's going on? And so are you my Palico? That's a Monster Hunter. Okay. So I when I saw that Rise was coming out, I saw the whatever it is, the zip line, the bug that you use to pull you up to places and stuff like that. I was like, that looks really cool, but man, I am so horrible with dexterity in games and stuff, and I'm gonna be terrible even if it's gonna take me so long to get good at that and whatnot. And I was so pleasantly surprised at how accessible Monster Hunter Rise was. I liked it more than World just because it was so much more user friendly. For one, when you went hunting, you didn't have to follow trails and find animal droppings and bones and all this stuff to be able to even find the monsters, which, if I remember correctly, you had to do that in World, and that was kind of a tedious part that I wasn't a crazy fan of. But in this one, it seemed you could really just jump right into the action, pretty much right from the beginning, and it was great. It was super, super easy playing the single-player stuff and getting out of the way. Honestly, the whole single-player campaign was pretty much one big tutorial for the multiplayer, because the multiplayer is where it gets tougher and it's a lot more fun, especially if you've got a good group of people going in there and taking down these big giant beasts. So I really, really enjoyed the hell out of Monster Hunter Rise. It's one of those games that I don't know that I'll go back to it, at least not anytime soon, but I really, really liked it, and if there is another iteration of Monster Hunter, I hope they keep a lot of the same features and the same accessibility that they did with that one. So super, super stoked to see what the future of the series has in store. Alright, coming in at number 4, Halo Infinite. So it is not because of the single player campaign. It's so weird that this is even on the list. And I kind of because I was looking at, I basically when I put together this list, I just listed out every game that I had played that came out in 2021. And I looked at this and I was like, man, I was not crazy about the single player campaign. I thought the story kind of dragged on. It was a little boring. The gameplay was repetitive. The open world was cool at first, but it wore off really quick because everything was the exact same. There wasn't much change in scenery or any kind of way you approach different obstacles and stuff, and it kind of dragged on a bit longer than it should have. That being said, once multiplayer comes out, like co-op, I think that'll be really, really cool in that open world setting. I think that'd be badass. And quite frankly, it begged for it at this point. But literally, it's on this list because of the multiplayer. I am not big into like it. I shouldn't say that. It takes a lot for me to get into a PvP shooter and actually like really want to get invested and really want to play quite a bit. Counter-Strike, I've talked a few times about that. I played that for years, and I absolutely loved it. I still call it Counter-Strike, but CSGO is what it goes by now. I'm old, I know. So since then, there hasn't really been any that I've just been like, I love this game, I have to get into it, I want to get good at it, blah, blah, blah. Halo, man. I'm not going to say I'm like into it as much as I was, CSGO, but man, I could not stop playing for the first like few weeks that it was out. It's so good, you guys. I really, really enjoyed the hell out of it. And especially if you've got people you're playing with online and you get the big giant battles going. I had like, a couple of nights where I was playing with like 6 people, 6 of my friends online. And it was an absolute blast. It was so much fun to just have everybody on the same team. We're all yelling and screaming and laughing and stuff into the microphones and just playing on these really fun maps and getting the vehicles and just shooting stuff. And it's old school Halo gameplay. It feels, if you played like, you grew up with Halo 1 and 2 and 3, you'll feel right at home. It's so good with how they brought everything back and just, it's just so good, you guys. For the multiplayer. I cannot recommend it enough. And it's free, so absolutely give it a shot. Even if you're not like super big into shooters, like I said, I'm typically not crazy about them. It takes a lot for me to get into them, but this one is worth your time, especially if you've got people to play with. Coming in at number 3, this is actually a game that I knew would be on this list. I expected to be on this list. Have touted very much, and also was thinking it might even be number 1 at a couple of points. And that's even before it came out, because I was so obsessed with the last one. That is Forza Horizon 5. Look at that, 2 Xbox games. I love this game. It was so good. I love the Forza Horizon games. They're all so awesome. I will say that if you were one of those people who played it and was like, it's kind of, it's just, basically an expansion of Forza Horizon 4, it's just the exact same thing and everything like that. To that, I would say, you're not wrong. But also, that's not a bad thing for me. I loved every minute of it. I unlocked every road on the map and did a ton of the races and just, man, I freaking adore that game. And I still, when I feel the itch, I just hop back in just like I did with 4. And I do a few races, drive around a little bit in that big open world. And man, it's so gorgeous. It's such a beautiful game. I really can't recommend it enough. If you have an Xbox, definitely check out Forza Horizon, any of them, quite frankly, because they're all good. 3, 4, and 5 are. Those are the ones I've played, but I've heard 1 and 2 are also good. I cannot recommend those games enough. I did a whole video on Forza Horizon 4, and so go check that out if you want to hear like more thoughts on it, because, it is very, very similar to the other games. But again, for me, that is not a detriment at all. That is a big positive side, because the games are so good, and they're just that fun to play. And again, it's another one of those, if you've got people to play with, it makes it so much better, because you're, playing on a team. And I love co-op games in general. You add co-op to a game, I'm like 5 times more likely to buy it and play it. So, if you get the chance, definitely check out Forza Horizon 5. Okay, coming in at number 2. Buddy, we played this a lot, and you watched me get frustrated a few times, huh? Yeah, I know. Man, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I almost didn't play this game at all. I almost completely pushed it off because I had heard that that there were gameplay segments where you were being chased by things and there was nothing you could do. You couldn't stop them, you couldn't kill them, you just had to run. And I hate that in games. I absolutely detest that. I hate it. Man, it was my least favorite part of Resident Evil 2. Because to me, it takes away from wanting to like it takes away from me and my desire to explore and see the game and enjoy the scenery and all this stuff. But I can't because I'm busy running from something. I could not have been more wrong. And I am so glad that I dove into Metroid Dread. Man, I definitely didn't expect, I didn't expect to play it, let alone have it be on my list. My God, this game is so good. I really, really liked Super Metroid. That was the first one that I played to completion in the series. And this game is very much like that. It's so good. Just a big, giant open map. The story's interesting. It's not the focal point, but it's, enough to keep you going. The backtracking is like, when you look at the map, it's a little daunting, and you're like, oh God, I have to go all the way back there. But then when you actually do it, it's like, oh, I'm already done. Okay. It's really not bad. They give you shortcuts along the way and stuff. And I think, like, one of the things I also was a little iffy on at first was the difficulty. And for me personally, I'm going to sound like a huge baby here. I'm not crazy about super hard games just for the sake of being hard. I don't really like that. I will say, though, in this game's defense, what I noticed was that when the game got hard, it wasn't anything that I couldn't improve on. Like, it wasn't something that I eventually was able to overcome and figure out and learn from and do better the next time. Each attempt, I could feel myself getting further and further. And I'm mainly talking about the boss fights, the exploration and running around, so that's easy, it's nothing. But like the boss fights, there are some mechanics that you're like, how the hell am I supposed to even do that? And then when you figure it out and it clicks, it's like, oh, okay, alright, okay. And then you keep rolling and you make it and you finally beat that boss, and then you move on and you go to explore again. Honestly, the only part that I really stopped having fun, the final boss, I think it goes on a little too long, and I was just kind of like over it because I died so many times. I will say, though, I didn't have to use a guide or anything for the entire game. So as hard as it got at certain points, it was never impossible. So it is definitely doable. You never ever feel like the game, like, you just really have to play it. If you have a Switch, play Metroid Dread. Seriously, it's not even that long of a game. I think it took me like 10 hours to beat, something like that. I think I took a screenshot and put it on Twitter. But I was so blown away by how much I like this game. I was not expecting to be into it that much. And I couldn't put it down when I got into it. I might eventually go back to it too, because I only got 50% of the items, something like that, running through it, from what I understand, what the game told me. And I was like, holy crap, there's so much that I didn't uncover and stuff. So it was really cool. I don't know that I'll play it on hard mode, because hard mode unlocked at the end. But man, if you have a Switch, you owe it to yourself. Definitely check out Metroid Dread. It is fantastic. And those bosses that you can't kill, that you have to run from, that I was so afraid of, those segments are so short. And like, you get through them, you just kind of like, you'll die a few times. But once you get through them, you do eventually get to kill those guys one by one. There's not that many of them, and it's really not a big deal. And I was so pleasantly surprised about that too. So definitely high recommendation for Metroid Dread. My number 2. And my number 1, while not it is a full-fledged game. I had this little fur ball. I would like lean back in my chair, and then he would just sit on my chest while I was playing at my computer. And that is Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, my game of the year. And I know it's maybe a little bit of a cop-out because it's an expansion to a game. But if you think about what it did, and like, I swear to God, I've got so many cat hairs like dangling from my nose. I can feel it, and it's really annoying. And it's just like, probably looks like something else, and I swear to God, that's not the case. No, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. So, everybody who's been playing the game, especially from the beginning, you can jump in now, you start the story from the beginning, which I would recommend doing. If you jump in now, absolutely play it from the beginning. Don't do the skip ahead like they give you, like the free 80 character, and you can, jump right to the end, or whatever it is they do now. I wouldn't do that, because the story is so good in 14. They've had bits and pieces of an overall story, as you know, MMOs tend to do, throughout each expansion. Each expansion has had its own self-contained story, but then, you know, kind of been like a big giant puzzle piece to a larger picture. And this expansion was the culmination of everything from the very beginning. And it wrapped up everything in a nice, neat little bow. It was a wonderful ending. I absolutely adored it. The game is just so damn good, you guys. If you have a PlayStation, if you have a PC, check it out, especially if you love story-focused games. I play on Leviathan server, have for a while. If anybody is on there, you know, more than happy to hang out with you. Check it, hop in Discord, you know, I'm on there and whatnot. You'll see me every now and then on there. This game is, it's just such a great experience for anybody like me who loves having that idea of like playing with other people with not necessarily having to play with other people, if that makes sense. I love co-op games, like I said before. So if I want to play with other people, I have that option. I can totally do so. Otherwise, I can do pretty much all the content on my own. I mean, you're forced to, like, you know, when you run dungeons and stuff like that, and you know, that kind of thing, you have to run it with other people and everything, but you can solo queue and you don't have to, like, go find people to run it with. And it's totally 100% doable. It's not hard. It's just, the story is just so good. You get attached to all the characters. I can't wait to see what they do with the storyline in the future. I don't know where they're going to go from here, because what they did in this was so mind-blowing and so, like, just out there, literally. The references, especially as a Final Fantasy fan, you're going to feel right at home. And that's, you know, from the very beginning. You'll see references to all the games. I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. If you've ever been curious about any sort of MMO games at all, Final Fantasy XIV is easily the best one out there, in my opinion. And it's just that good. And I can't recommend it enough for anybody who's got a PS4, PS5, PC. Come on, check it out. I would love to see him bring it over to Xbox. I think it'd be, you know, have a good home there too. So yeah, there you have it, guys. My top 5 games for 2021. I also wanted to say that I am going to be taking a little bit of a break from YouTube. It's going to be, I'm probably going to take like a month off of just like not recording videos and kind of like I've got some personal stuff and real life stuff that I need to take care of and work on. And when I come back, I will probably end up doing like once every other week, and not sticking to the one per week thing that I've been doing. And I might even just honestly go all in on like just releasing whenever I feel like it. It's hard to stick to a schedule like this, and that's kind of one of the reasons why my videos are very, very like just boilerplate, like not like tons of editing and all these like amazing shots and like the crazy narration and all this stuff. It's minimal effort just for me to get my thoughts out there is kind of how I view it and what comes through. That's what I'm going for, because I'm not trying to like make this anything beyond me just talking to some people who like video games and might want to hear what I have to say. I'm not looking to make it go beyond anything other than that. So I will definitely be back. I'll still be doing this. I'm just going to take a little bit of time off for me. And you know, you can still reach out, and I'll still be in Discord and on Twitter and stuff. And by all means, reach out, say hi. You can comment on my videos still, and I'll still be checking there and reading and responding to comments and stuff. So don't be afraid to. Just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up for when you don't see videos in the next few weeks. So, but yeah, I thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. And as always, keep on gaming.